Have you ever actually stopped to think about your body not just as, flesh and bone, but as the most sophisticated, perfectly engineered machine on the planet? Well, welcome to today's explainer, where we're going to frame human biology exactly like that. We're going on a bit of a journey. Instead of just memorizing a bunch of isolated body parts, we really want to look at the incredible efficiency and the metabolic cost of running this human machine. We'll start way zoomed out at the macro level of your major organ systems, and then we're going to dive all the way down deep into your chest to examine the profound mechanics of a single life-sustaining breath. Here's a quick roadmap of what we're covering. We'll start broad with Part 1, the organ system network. Then we'll zoom in for Part 2, the thoracic cavity. From there, we hit Part 3, anatomy of respiration, followed by Part 4, the gas exchange transaction, and finally, we'll zoom back out for Part 5, systems working together.
All right, Part 1, the organ system network, the body's baseline. Let's kick things off by looking at the absolute biggest picture of human biology. 11. That is the magic number of human anatomy. Your body relies on exactly 11 distinct organ systems working together as one unified machine to keep you alive. We're talking about everything, from the integumentary system, which is your skin, hair, and nails, forming a protective barrier, to the nervous system, firing off rapid electrical impulses, all the way to the digestive system, breaking down complex fuels. But the true biological marvel here? It's the sheer scale of coordination. Not a single one of these 11 systems operates in a vacuum. They are constantly communicating, adapting, and supporting each other to pull off the staggeringly complex processes you need to survive every single minute of the day.
Now, the ultimate goal of these 11 interconnected systems is something called homeostasis. Think of homeostasis like an endless, super dynamic balancing act. Your body is just constantly monitoring and actively adjusting its internal conditions. And let me tell you, it spends a massive amount of metabolic energy to do it. Whether it's keeping your internal temperature right around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, maintaining the steady rhythm of your pulse, or perfectly balancing the exact ratios of oxygen and carbon dioxide in your bloodstream, every single system pitches in to maintain this baseline state. If homeostasis gets disrupted, even slightly, your body has to kick into overdrive to correct the course and restore balance. Moving right along to Part 2, the thoracic cavity, designing the space. Because, as you might guess, our organs don't just float around randomly inside of us. They need rigid, protected structures. To maintain strict internal organization, the body uses membranes and sheaths to create separate vital compartments. We've got the dorsal cavity along the back, which protects your fragile spinal cord, and the much larger ventral cavity at the front. And it's within that ventral cavity that we find the thoracic cavity, your chest. This space is actually structurally walled off from your abdomen by a powerful dome-shaped muscle called the diaphragm. This specific architectural design is absolutely crucial. It gives our high-pressure, constantly moving organs, specifically the heart and the lungs, the strictly protected space they need to physically expand and contract millions of times a year without crushing other tissues or messing with the stomach or liver sitting right next door. But the body faces a major mechanical problem here, and that is friction. Imagine if your lungs were constantly expanding and forcefully rubbing against the hard, bony interior of your ribs 20,000 times a day. That would cause massive, catastrophic tissue damage. The solution? An absolute engineering marvel known as serous membranes, specifically the pleura. You have the visceral pleura, which is a delicate, microscopic layer wrapping directly around the lung tissue itself, and then the parietal pleura, lining the outer rigid chest wall. Sandwiched right between them is a specialized vacuum-sealed chamber filled with just a tiny bit of lubricating fluid. This fluid allows the lungs to inflate and deflate with incredible smoothness, gliding against the chest wall with virtually zero friction. All right, Part 3, anatomy of respiration, the pathway of air. Now that we've mapped out the physical space and the scaffolding, let's track the literal journey of a single breath. Let's trace the path. Air gets pulled from the outside world right through your nose and nasopharynx, where it's rapidly filtered of debris and warmed up to body temperature. Then it travels down the trachea, your windpipe. From there, it branches off into the left and right bronchi, heading straight into the lungs. But the journey doesn't stop there. The airways keep branching into smaller and smaller tubes, looking a lot like the sprawling roots of an upside-down tree. Finally, the air hits the end of the line. Tiny, microscopic, grape-like clusters called alveoli. These incredibly delicate little sacs are the ultimate, life-giving destination for every single breath you take. Which brings us to Part 4, the gas exchange transaction, the crucial trade. This is where we transition from the anatomy, the physical structures, to the physiology, the actual function happening deep inside those microscopic alveoli. I want you to think of respiration as a nonstop, high-stakes transaction between your internal environment and the outside world. It's essentially a biological currency exchange happening at lightning speed. Every single one of the trillions of cells in your body is demanding a constant, steady supply of oxygen to metabolize fuel and survive. But to buy that life-sustaining oxygen, the body has to spend its accumulating cellular waste product, carbon dioxide. If this transaction slows down or stops for even a few minutes, the entire metabolic economy of the body just crashes, and homeostasis is entirely lost. Let's break down the micro-narrative of this trade. The air you just inhaled violently fills hundreds of millions of those tiny alveolar sacs. To maximize the efficiency of this exchange, the body completely relies on sheer surface area. In fact, if you flattened out all the alveoli in your lungs, they'd cover the size of a tennis court. Crazy, right? Now, each one of those alveoli is tightly hugged by a microscopic net of capillaries. The cardiovascular system pumps deoxygenated, carbon dioxide-heavy blood into these capillaries. Right there, across a membrane that is roughly 1/50th the thickness of a sheet of paper, the magic of diffusion happens. The blood drops off its carbon dioxide waste so you can exhale it and eagerly absorbs the fresh oxygen. That newly enriched blood is then pumped right back out to feed every single corner of your body.
And finally, Part 5, Systems Working Together, the ultimate partnership. For our last section, we are going to zoom all the way back out to see how the whole machine operates together.
This brings us right back to our core theme of profoundly interconnected systems. See, the respiratory system acts as the biological ventilation unit. It brings the fresh air in and handles the actual physical gas exchange at the alveolar level. But that ventilation, it's utterly useless without the cardiovascular system acting as a high-speed delivery freight, transporting that newly acquired oxygen directly to your hungry tissues and hauling the toxic carbon dioxide waste back up to the lungs. Furthermore, neither the respiratory nor the cardiovascular systems can function without the musculoskeletal system acting as the physical mechanics to actually draw the air into the body in the first place. It's really easy to forget this surprising anatomical fact. Breathing is fundamentally a mechanical musculoskeletal action. Your lungs are actually totally passive. They don't possess the muscle tissue to just suck in air on their own. Instead, your body relies on physics. Your diaphragm actively flexes and pushes down toward your stomach, while the muscles attached to your 12 pairs of ribs pull your entire heavy rib cage up and outward. This active, energy-consuming muscle movement increases the physical volume inside the closed thoracic cavity. And what happens when you suddenly increase that volume? The internal pressure drops, creating a literal vacuum. It's that vacuum state that physically forces the higher pressure outside air to rush down your trachea and fill up those waiting lungs. So, I want to leave you with a thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. Look at this incredibly delicate biological cascade we've just uncovered. If a broken rib prevents the musculoskeletal system from changing chest volume, or if a weak heart prevents the cardiovascular system from transporting those gases, how long do you think the respiratory system can actually maintain homeostasis all on its own? It absolutely can't. It is a stark, beautiful reminder that the human body isn't just a collection of isolated parts, but the ultimate unified machine.